Alrighty guys, welcome back to the Buehler Breakdown. I'm here with Kurt Buehler today. Say hello.
Good morning.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Good. Today we're going to be talking about first-time home buyers, frequently asked questions, common misconceptions. Going to dive into a couple of these questions. If you guys haven't heard, we have another podcast up with the one and only Shane Sharp that we did last week, going over more of the lending side of the business. Want to make sure that you can check that one out too. You'll have the links below. So to start it all off, I want to talk to Kurt about, let's go ahead and dive in. What is, in your opinion, probably one of the most common misconceptions that buyers, both first-time and previous buyers, have when purchasing a home?
I think most buyers, they get a little wigged out about buying a house because they think that they're going to live in this house for 30 years. And they believe that it's got to be absolutely perfect, that it's got to be that they're searching for that perfect house. There is no perfect house out there.
They're looking for their forever home.
They're looking for their forever home, and they're actually going to be in the house, maybe 5 years, maybe 7 years, because when you buy a house, the weird thing is you buy a house and then you live in that house for 5 years. Then you figure out, I really wish I had this, or I really wish I had this. So you progress through homes as you age, knowing the things that you like and the things that you don't like in the home that you buy.
So kind of tweaking what you prefer in a home, be it layout or features or just...
Or it could be a 3-car garage, or it could be that you want to put a swimming pool in, and maybe the first house that you bought, it's not the right time to put a swimming pool, or the right neighborhood to put a swimming pool in.
Okay.
Because you might price yourself out. When I say that, you always do updates and upgrades to your homes and that kind of thing, but so you don't want to over-update a house for a neighborhood, because then all of a sudden you put all this money into the house, which normally you'll get out, but if you over-update it, well then you're putting good money after bad there. And it might be better at that time to move to a bigger home in a different area where you can upgrade the next house and still get all your money back on that.
All right, I like that. Let's dive into that a little bit further. Overpricing yourself out of a neighborhood. So I bought a $200,000 house, and the average price in that neighborhood is $225,000. But then I put stainless steel appliances and granite countertops, and every bell and whistle you could imagine, hardwood floors, new paint. Does it make sense?
No. I mean, it will help the house sell. No ifs and buts. Your house will sell right away by you doing it. But when you start doing things that are so uncommon for that price range, then all of a sudden it becomes a little bit of a problem, where you're over improving for the neighborhood. I mean, do things that are common for that price range. If you've got a special amenity, like a 3-car garage, when all the other homes have a 2-car garage, boy, that's just something that will automatically sell. But don't go put a $75,000 pool that you fell in love with into a $200,000 house. If you're going to build a $75,000 pool, build it on a $500,000 house. Just do what's prudent for the price range you live in.
Okay. What are you seeing as far as buyers wanting turnkey, ready to move in, everything done, versus the flexibility to do some improvements to help build an equity?
This goes for millennials, this goes for X generation, goes for baby boomers, everything. They want everything done. Millennials are coming out of these apartments. These apartments have granite and stainless, and they're beautiful, and they have amenities. They want everything done. I don't know if you've ever seen what's that show with the two brothers?
$1 Million Listing.
No, this one is Property Brothers. So they go and they show this house that's got everything done to it, and they always have expensive neighborhoods like New York or something like that. And it's $1.2 million for everything done, and then they go find a house that's $700,000 that they put $100,000 into it, and it looks better than that $1.2 million. Well, that's what I want you to take away from this is find a house that you can do some things to, that you can make it your own, because when you do it yourself, you get exactly what you want. And there's wholesale ways of doing this, guys. I've flipped homes. Now, I haven't been able to flip in the last year because the marketplace has been been higher than normal, and we're now starting to see the decreases in the marketplace as far as some of the home values. But I can put granite in a house for $400 a slab. The average house will take two, maybe 2.5 slabs, and then the guys charge me $400 to install it. I can put granite in the kitchen, complete in the kitchen,
for $1,500.
For $1,500 or less.
Yeah.
So.
And what kind of value does that add on to the home?
You know,
$5,000.
$5,000. I spend $1,500. I get $5,000.
3 to 1
So when you're
return.
looking for that house, look at it for the bones of the house. Does the structure, does the foundation, does the floor plan fit you? But if there's anything in that house that's cosmetic that you want changed, I can move walls. I can add headers and take out walls. I can make a house so cool and so to their personality that they should never be afraid of tackling something like that.
You brought up a good point. So you talked about having flipped homes in the past. The marketplace has been very difficult for the last turned in 2012, February 2012. So we're looking at about the last 5 years or so.
It's actually been about the last 2.5 years of where the margins for flipping aren't there.
Aren't there anymore at all. Now, to touch on that, because I know that's a lot of frustration that I have with clients, and I'm sure you're seeing on the buy side as well, is, when I work with the sellers, they can't find anything to buy. Talk a little bit about the market currently, kind of where you see things going and what challenges buyers are having right now.
Well, the challenges are still that we have low inventories, and it is exactly for what you just said. I mean, sellers are not listing their homes because they can't find anything to buy. We went from a 2-week supply in May of this year to a 4-month supply currently. So the trend is, and actually our marketplace hit the wall about August 1st, where all of a sudden, and by the way, you saw in the Dallas Morning News about 2 weeks ago that they said they believe that the Dallas marketplace has hit its high and it's going to start declining. The media is so far behind things that we hit our high about August 1st. So what happens when the inventory increases like that? All of a sudden now the buyers are going to have choices. The buyers don't have to make offers that are going to be, $20,000 over list price. They may not even have to make full price offers because they're now going to have their choices of what homes they want to buy. So all of a sudden now we're coming back to more of a marketplace that is a buyer-friendly, buyer-centric market. And this depends on price point, by the way.
What price point are we seeing? I mean, sub 300 is still...
Sub 250, maybe sub 300 is still crazy, okay? It's still going to get maybe 1 offer, 2 offers right in the first week.
Okay.
But 4 months ago, that would have gotten 10 offers on it. And it was sold for $20,000 over list price. Now it may sell for price. So the market is changing. And by the way, we do such a high volume of business that we see these trends before other realtors. If a realtor sells 8 homes a year, which is what the average realtor sells, they can't see those trends because they're not doing enough volume to see those trends. We do enough volume that we can actually see and feel those trends when they hit. And it's trending more towards a buyer-centric market.
Okay, so you're kind of seeing that shift.
The shift is real,
Yeah.
and the shift is here.
Okay.
And shifts happen.
Yeah, they do. And I'm going to have an inspector on a little bit later, and we'll kind of sit down and talk with them for a little bit more in depth about repairs and what to see in a home. So we're starting to see a shifting market. There's going to be more available, so buyers are going to have options now. As far as, and you touched on this, if the bones work and it's just cosmetic stuff, that's great. What repairs do you typically advise? So you've been with a client, they put an offer in on a home, it was accepted. So you're moving forward, you're in the option period, you're doing your inspections, the inspection report comes back. What are some of those items on that inspection report that you say, whoa, okay, let's hold up. These are throwing up some red flags versus repairs that you can do on your own or aren't major ticket items. What does that look like?
Well, homes are built to codes, and well, let me give you if I'm flipping a house, I know I'm going in there and I'm gutting that house. I'm going to change all the lights and the fixtures and I'm going to paint the house. And so what I'm concerned about when I'm flipping a house on the inspection report is I'm concerned about the foundation, the roof, the HVAC system, the electrical and the plumbing. So those are the major items. Those are all stuff that you want to make sure that it's solid and it's good. I'll give you an example of something that I ran into with an older house that I flipped down in Dallas. So this house was built in the 50s and it had iron piping under the foundation. And all the plumbing, it passed inspection, all that stuff. What I didn't do is I didn't put it under a pressure test. When you have old iron pipes like that, and you put it under pressure test, all of a sudden it starts leaking. That cost me $12,000 to replace that all with PVC piping. That passed inspection. But that's one of those things that you want your realtor to know that, okay, if it's this age, may have iron plumbing, you want to put it under, you want to do what is called a pressure test or put it under pressure. Those are some of the things that you count on your realtor whenever you're doing a search for homes to bring up to you, because that would be an expensive fix later. But we see some buyers that will come in on inspection reports and they list. Well, let me back up a second. These inspectors are licensed and bonded by the state of Texas. They have a promulgated form that they have to do inspections, and if they miss something, they're liable for their miss on that inspection report. They list everything.
Coding and everything. I mean, so the home was built in the 50s. Anything that was in code at the time but is not now is going to have to be flagged.
Yeah, and they're not going to say that it's out of code because they're not code inspectors, but they will say the house doesn't have GFCIs that are near water within 6 feet of water. Well, that wasn't code at the time, and now it is. Well, let's say a house is built in 1995 and it was code to have GFCIs, which is ground fault interrupt circuit. You know, the little, those are the little plugs with the trip on them. So they trip if
they get wet or if
they get wet or something's
out.
going to electrocute you or something like that, they trip. Now GFCIs are required
almost everywhere.
Almost anywhere in the kitchen, all of the exterior, of course, all bathrooms, all plugs, instead of just within 6 feet of water. So when you buy a house that's built in 1995, the sellers don't want to bring it to current code. They just want to fix what is wrong with the house because you're buying a 1995 home. So it's in my opinion that if that's something that you want done, that you do that later, and it's not that expensive to do that, but it's also may not be necessary to do that. You know, current homes are built to a very high standard. So when you do these inspection reports, look at the big ticket items. Look at the plumbing, the electrical,
structural and mechanical.
The structural and the mechanical. Let me talk about structural for a second. So all homes are built with foundations in Texas, and our foundations move in Texas. We're built on clay. And so the brick veneer on the outside of a house it does not hold up the house. The frame of the house is the wood frame inside. The brick veneer is just that. It's a veneer on the house. So it will crack as the house moves. You'll see some mortar cracks outside in the brick. That does not, it indicates that the house moves, which all homes move.
You want them to move,
or
else the whole house will fall down if there's any shifting.
But what you look at on the inspection reports is, are there any cracks in the perimeter grade beam, which is the cement at the bottom that the brick sits on?
So your actual your exposed foundation.
Your exposed foundation. You want to see if there's a crack there. And even if it's a hairline, that's a crack in the foundation, not brick mortar cracks. Yes, that shows movements. You may want to have that pointed so you don't have water penetration into the house. But that does not necessarily mean foundation repair.
So you bring up a good point there. And this is, so we always recommend to have an inspector go out and do inspections during your option period.
Best money you're going to spend, bar none, when you're buying a house.
Absolutely. And it's always good to have a reputable inspector, somebody that you trust. I like to refer inspectors that are good about talking, especially first-time home buyers, because they get that 30-page report of 28 pages of code out of code.
And
they freak out because they go,
And let me just interject really quick on the inspections, because your realtor's going to refer you an inspector. You should always ask your friends, ask your parents, ask Ask your neighbors, who did they use on an inspector? So you get a unbiased opinion, because you don't ever want to doubt that the realtor who's referring you the inspector
is just giving you a buddy.
It's just giving you a buddy.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to feel really comfortable with the inspector that you choose.
So, and I want to piggyback on what you're talking about with the foundation. So, you get the inspection back, and he notes that there is some brick veneer cracking in the east facing wall of the home. What are some other further inspections, be it having a foundation company, a structural engineer, a plumber, an electrician? What are some of those other qualified inspectors that you might want to have come out, and when would you have them come out?
Well, and you know that this is my pet peeve, and it just drives me absolute crazy. So we had some friends of ours that lived in Flower Mountain, a single-story house, and it had foundation repairs in the past. In fact, you went to school with their child, one of their children. So they had a foundation company come out and give them a bid. Now, please understand, this is no dig on foundation companies or anything like that, but foundation companies are in the business for selling piers.
That's literally what they do.
Literally. They are pier salesmen. That's what they do. Yes, they'll come out to your house for free, by the way. They'll come out to your house for free.
There were air quotations around that.
There were air quotations around that. And then they'll give you a report on your foundation. They came out to the house and they suggested that this house needed 36 piers. Now, 36 piers is a lot of piers. This house was only 2,000 square feet.
Yeah, you're floating that house at that
You're
point.
pretty much, the entire house has piers underneath it. They called us and they were just shocked and they just couldn't believe it and all this stuff. And we said, well, who came out? And they named a foundation company, which everybody knows because they're on TV and have a famous spokesman. And we said, no, don't do this. Call a structural engineer who's not affiliated with a foundation company. Now, here's the catch to that. It's going to cost you $350, maybe $400 for a structural engineer company to come out who's not affiliated with the foundation company and give you an opinion of value on the foundation. So this structural engineer went out to the house, and the house actually did need 4 piers. Well, piers run about, anywhere from $300 to $500 a piece. So it did cost about $2,000 for them on the repair to their foundation. Any idea what 36 piers would have cost them? I mean,
yeah, geez. I mean, you're talking
it really, foundation companies
$18,000.
are pier salesmen, and some of them, it borders on fraud. I mean, it borders on fraud. And so the one thing of anything that you take away from this podcast today is if you're worried about the foundation of your house, have a structural engineer who's not affiliated with the foundation company come out and see your house. If a foundation company says they have a structural engineer on staff, they're still part of that staff. So please be very, very careful about that, because it can cost you, in this past case, that was $16,000, which is just a massive amount of money.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. I've had my own personal experience where I had foundation work done to my home. Structural engineer said, I needed 11 piers put in. Foundation company came in and said they needed 18. Well, that right there was my structural engineer. That more than paid for him to come out and give me an unbiased second opinion as far as what was needed.
Well, guys, when we talk about foundation repair and inspections and all that stuff, homes have foundation repair in Texas. They just do. You want to know what caused that. Was it a lack of watering? Was it too much water? By the way, those two things are the number 1 and 2 reasons why foundations have problems in Texas.
Was it a tree near?
Could be a tree limbs that are sucking the water out. So it's really is that moisture content. Is it a plumbing leak underneath the foundation that caused the foundation to swell? There's things like that, but find out what the root of the problem was that caused the foundation problem, and then you can determine, is that going to happen again, or the likelihood is that going to happen again.
Yeah, no, that's kind of what I want to dive in there for a little bit. Plumbers and electricians are also good. Usually we don't recommend those to go out until you actually have some kind of repair. The biggest ones I've seen with Electrical is breaker boxes pre-1978. You got to be careful. There's a few name brands. I won't throw anybody under the bus on this, but you can do some research. There's 3 that I can think of offhand that have some bad reputations for burning houses down. So I wanted to kind of change gears here a little bit as we wrap up. One of the biggest things, and I really want you to kind of dive into this one. So millennials, they're getting into the market right now, and we're starting to see more millennials buying. This generation is probably one of the most well-versed and most well-educated, maybe not necessarily in the best ways possible, but they do a ton of research.
They do research. They do so much internet research. It's almost they've gotten to a point, and they're coming out of this actually right now, of paralysis by analysis.
Yes. No, and talk to me a little bit about that, because I know, we're looking at, I think the National Association of Realtors just recently released a study that the average time from first look to buy for a millennial buyer was 18 months. So they are looking for a year and a half prior to purchasing the actual home that they want to buy.
Well, they're in these really nice apartments that are gorgeous and all these amenities and all that stuff.
And then they're going to buy a $200,000 house that has popcorn ceilings.
Yes,
and
it's driving them crazy.
Is older than they are, yeah.
But they don't see the vision of it.
Yeah.
Now,
So
millennials, so what I will say, Gary Keller, who's the owner of Keller Williams, said the year 2020, we will have the largest home buying force ever in the history of the United States buying homes. And it's the millennials reaching the age of 32 to 35 years old that are now going to understand that wealth building comes through home ownership. And there's such a massive difference between home ownership and wealth and rental and wealth. Massive difference between.
Well, we talked about this a little bit in the last one, but it's a forced savings account.
It's a forced. If
nothing else, unless you are very diligent about putting money away every month, this is just another bucket to be forcing a savings account. That in 30 years you have a $200,000 to $300,000 to $400,000 vested investment right there, because that's you paid it off, you're done, and you paid it off month by month.
Well, and you can use little tricks like make one extra payment per year. You can actually set this up with a bi-weekly payment, and it takes your loan from a 30-year down to 21 years, and you never even feel it because it's the same payment every month. Just throughout that, because you're making it bi-weekly, you're making one extra payment per year. You never feel it. But it takes your loan from 30 years down to 21 years. Now go, on your next house after that, get a 15-year note and do that same thing bi-weekly and take a 15-year note to an 11-year note. And you're going to see how fast that equity really starts building.
Yeah. And side note to that, for anybody who wants to do it that way, I do a little differently. So me personally, I've taken what an extra payment would look like, and I just divided that out over 12 months, and I just tacked that on to my mortgage payment.
And you just say for principal only.
And you have to
have to identify that.
That's the big one. You got to make sure that you call your mortgage company or whoever holds that note and tell them, if I'm paying $1,750 a month and my mortgage payment is only due at $1,500, you got to tell them that extra $250 every month is going towards principal only, and make sure to clarify that, or else they're going to go, great, glad you're paying off more of that interest. We really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we kind of went down a rabbit hole there, but I want to talk a little bit about millennials and doing their research. And not just millennials, Gen Xers, baby boomers, everybody I talk to. What is the number one website?
Everybody goes to Zillow.
There you go. So talk to me a little bit about Zillow and home evaluations, because I'm sure when you work with buyers, how many times are they the real estate expert and know market values on every home that you go look at?
Oh gosh, and here, look, you got to use websites for what good they are. Zillow is good because it outlines all the houses. You can find all the houses easily. It's a great navigation tool, that kind of stuff.
It's the Wikipedia.
It's a Wikipedia. That's a great example. Now, the issue with Zillow is their data. They got a federal trade indictment for misrepresentation of pricing. I'll I'll give you one funny one, and this came out in the newspaper. The CEO of Zillow had a second home in Steamboat Springs, and Zillow had the Z estimate, which is their estimates of value, at $1.8 million. The house sold for $800,000. I mean, there's and this is the CEO of Zillow.
Yeah,
and
his own home.
His own. It was a second home for him, but they can be close. They can be way off.
And their data has gotten better. I mean, I will give them credit where credit is due, and I am seeing their numbers are getting better. But talk a little bit about geographical pricing and how they kind of come up with their numbers and why it doesn't work.
Well, that if you're on a fringe of a neighborhood or something, so Zillow goes into a neighborhood and they do a radius search, a geographic radius search to determine the value. And in Texas, we're a non-disclosure state, so we don't disclose sales prices. Zillow doesn't get our sales prices unless a realtor chooses to add that into Zillow, which is an option. Most realtors will not do it because the Zillow information is not necessarily reliable information. So they do this radius search. You could be in a neighborhood that let me give you, for example, Bridlewood. Bridlewood has all these different neighborhoods. And there's a
price points that vary widely.
There's a $500,000 to $750,000 neighborhood that sits right next door to a $250,000 to $300,000 neighborhood. So Zillow, the Z estimates in there are way off because they do that radius search and they're just combining those homes and determining a value.
They're going to take average price per square foot of the $500,000 house and the $200,000 house and then just average them out.
Yeah, well, when you just hit on something, everybody thinks there's an average price per square foot, and that is the average price per square foot is a layman's term that you should never, ever, ever use.
It's a great ballpark.
It's a good ballpark, but it's not an accurate figure. No. An accurate figure is you look at the comparables, you do the adjustments to those comparables. This is the way an appraiser does it. This is the way they determine value for making a mortgage on your house. Is they come in, they look at the subject property, they look at the comparables, they make adjustments to those comparables, then they give a price to the subject.
So let's talk a little bit about that because I like that you brought that up. What are, from an appraisal standpoint, from a higher level real estate conversation, what are some of those adjustments made? What are some of the higher ticket items, if you will, that we're seeing appraisers adjust for that you don't get if you just look at average price per square foot?
Well, let's just give you the first one and the one that all buyers will look at. They look at a house, and because we provide the buyers with all the sold homes in the neighborhood so they can see what the homes have sold for. So let's say a home sold for $100 a square foot, just as an easy number for us to work with. And that house is 300 square feet smaller than the one that you're going to buy. So you would think as a buyer, okay, I'm going to take that $100 a square foot times 300 square feet, that's $30,000 more. I should pay $30,000 more for the house I'm going to buy than this house because it's 300 square feet bigger.
Makes sense.
That's not the way an appraiser does it. Because not all square footage is equal in a house. And think about this. The kitchens, with all the appliances, the plumbing, the electrical, that kitchen price per square foot is about $200 a square foot. The price per square foot in a game room, in an upstairs game room, is about $20 a square foot. So not all square footage in a house is the same price per square foot. So the way an appraiser takes that and manages that is they will use an average between $45 a square foot and $60 a square foot. And they're going to take that same 300 square feet that we just talked about, and let's say they assign $50 a square foot to it. So now it's a $15,000 adjustment. You're going to pay $15,000 more for that house than the subject. Instead, that house that is valued, I should pay $15,000 more for that house, not $30,000 more for that house. Now I've just equipped myself the right way to make an offer on that house. And that's the big one, okay? The other ones are, so watch how you look at square footage on comparables. It's very, very important. The other ones are a pool. So pools cost, $50,000, $40,000 to $50,000 now for a regular pool.
For a hole in the ground. Yes.
We can only assign $15,000 to $25,000 for that that $50,000 pool. When we're giving,
And we're seeing appraisers take a bigger ding on pools right now.
yes.
They're not giving nearly as much value as what they would have a year or two ago.
No, and the other ones are outdoor living areas. I mean, there's a vast difference between a grill in a backyard with a fridge that fits in a little island and a cabana that's fully equipped with TVs and audio, video, and all that stuff.
In a full kitchen.
There's just massive differences. But if you want a rule of thumb, a full bathroom is worth $6,000 more or less if a comparable has it. Half bath is worth $3,000. A pool typically is $15,000 to $25,000.
A little more if the price is higher.
Yes, I mean if it's a $500,000 house, we might assign $40,000 to a pool because it probably cost them $80,000, by the way, for that pool. A third car garage is worth $10,000 for a third bay, and everybody loves a third bay of a garage. So those are some of the majors. You know, if you're back to a green belt, that's probably worth $10,000 right there. There's of course, every circumstance has its exception.
Yeah.
But you know, when you look at a house and you look at other homes that are nearby, if that home was fully, like you had brought up before, it had stainless, all nailed on hardwood floors, it had quartz counters in it, and you're looking at a house that doesn't have any of that, you have to assign a negative value to the house you're looking at because that other comparable could have sold for the highest price per square foot in that neighborhood, and it did because they did all the work to it. Mm-hmm. So why not go buy the one that doesn't have the work to it and do it yourself at an inexpensive amount?
No, I think it's an idea that is tough for a lot of buyers to wrap their mind around because they look at it and they go, I bought a house, I just want to be done. I just want to move in and have it complete so I don't have to do anything.
But it's so much fun seeing the transformation. It is so much fun.
And like you said earlier, you hit the nail on the head. It's yours. You get to pick the
everything.
If you want granite or if you want quartz or what color do you want, what tile backsplash do you want, subway tile, do you want mosaic tile? I mean, whatever you want to do, go wild. I mean,
you can go wild on Pinterest and house.com and you can get every idea in the world. I mean, right now what's really in, if you go to the builder's models, it's transitional, which is grays and whites and chrome fixtures and standalone acrylic white tubs, frameless showers. And it's so light, bright, and airy. Old world is kind of a thing of the past. And I'm sure that may cycle back around. And
it will. I mean,
cycles.
Everything cycles. So, and I know we're gonna go ahead and attach a blog to this as well. So in that blog, we'll kind of have some of those cool new features. I love some of like the old barn wood, that aged, distressed gray woods that look like they've been out and just beat up for a while. I love that look in a home.
Yeah. Now imagine you get to this house that's kind of a little bit run down, that kind of stuff, and your door to your master bathroom is just a little tiny door. Well, make that opening bigger. Have a barn door with old barn wood on it. Sliding rails above it. Oh, that one look right there changes the entire look of the bedroom. Yeah. The entire look of the bedroom.
So, well, Kurt, I really appreciate your time. It was great. If you guys have any questions, we're going to go ahead and put all of our contact information at the bottom of this. Again, as always, we'd love your feedback. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us. But guys, I appreciate y'all listening, and we will see y'all next time.
Have a great weekend.